So yesterday I had a very hard gym ring workout, and as I was on my way back home, I noticed that there was a basketball court nearby. And even though, my muscles are already tired, the pump was still holding on, but I had zero energy left in my body. I looked at that basketball court and I thought to myself, you know what? Fuck it. I went on the basketball court for just a little bit, just to fuck around, right? Just to shoot some hoops. And as I made it to the basketball court, right, I noticed that there was a guy who was like literally 2 or 3 times bigger than me. All right. When I saw his physique, it didn't even look like a basketball player physique at this point. He looked like a downright fucking bodybuilder, and he was fucking huge, okay? He was fucking huge, and because I'm into lifting weights as well, the first thought that I got, the first initial instinct was to walk up and talk to him, was to cold approach him, as guys call it on the internet. Yeah, guess what ended up happening? As I stood there and I thought to myself, should I talk to him or not? Because usually I'm not afraid of talking to guys, right? But this guy, he looked so fucking intimidating, right? It felt a little bit weird. However, I said to myself, fuck it. Once again, right? I used something which we're gonna talk about today, and essentially that made the whole cold approach like 10 times easier. It was just one mindset switch that literally made cold approaching in general like 10 times fucking easier, like a complete fucking 180, right? I ended up talking to that guy, and guess what? He actually ended up being younger than me, right? He was 1 year younger, yet he already been lifting weights for 4 fucking years. Can you imagine? Can you imagine meeting a guy who's younger than you, who's already been lifting at the gym for 4 years? Plus, he also had kickboxing experience. So this guy was like, he was genuinely overall like really fucking developed, and it was easy to assume that he was also on self-improvement, right? Damn, I'm stuttering a lot today. What the fuck's happening? but the point that I'm trying to make is, I would have missed out on such an amazing opportunity to meet such a great guy if I just didn't have the courage to actually walk up and talk to him. And this is a natural thing, right? Oftentimes, we're genuinely just scared to walk up to new people because we're not really familiar with the feeling of actually speaking to new people. Listen, it's a skill that you need to develop, my friend. And today I wanted to give you a little mindset switch, which actually makes cold approaching 10 times easier. And you're gonna be surprised at how simple it actually is, yet how effective it actually is. Because it brings you results like crazy, okay? This is something that I invented myself, so you might have not heard of it before on the internet. But essentially, for you to become way better at cold approaching, you need to destroy the idea of cold approaching in the first place. Now, what the fuck do I mean by saying this? Stop thinking of speaking to people as a cold approach, because when you think about it as cold approaching, right, you think of it as such like a specific niched down thing. When you think of cold approach to somebody, you associate that thought with discomfort because you know you are scared of cold approaching people, right? Wouldn't it be easier to just think about it as just speaking to people? This sounds so autistic, right? But when you really dial in and think about it, saying just speaking to somebody rather than cold approaching, it sounds like much more pleasant. It sounds much more comfortable. When you say on a daily basis, oh yeah, I'm gonna go up and speak to that guy, it sounds far more casual. You start to associate it with a much simpler task to do rather than fucking cold approaching somebody. Even though cold approaching literally is just walking up and speaking to somebody new. When you think about it as a much easier thing to do, your overall perception of doing that task immediately becomes easier. You need to stop overthinking about it, essentially. To keep it way simpler, you need to stop overthinking doing that one thing. Because the thing with overthinking, my friend, the more you sit there and the more you prepare the ideal scenario for how the cold approach is going to go, the worse you actually end up performing. You know why? Because the more you overthink doing that thing, the harder it actually becomes. The more you think about it, the more you start worrying. The more time you spend overthinking doing that one task, the more difficult it becomes to you. Because you're starting to take into account all of these different possible things that could potentially fuck you up and make the whole cold approach like 10 times more awkward. The best way to do cold approaches is to literally force your feet to walk up to that person and just like autopilot the sentence, just autopilot. It doesn't have to be like anything stiff. You can if you see a guy who has like a crazy physique, go ask him about the physique. If you see a guy with, I don't fucking know, nice shoes, ask him about his shoes. If you see a girl that has a really pretty fucking face, go tell her that she looks pretty. Don't make it awkward. You really don't have to make it awkward. Imagine somebody walks up to you on the street and he's like, hey, how are you? You can just tell by the way I said how fucking awkward it sounds. Like now imagine you are a hot girl and some random average bimbo walks up to you and says that. You're gonna feel a little bit odd, right? It's gonna sound a little bit vague, a little bit flat, a little bit empty, right? So for you, the best way for you to actually do it is you need to turn off your brain, literally like shut it down, and just force your feet towards her or him, and literally just ask about something about his appearance. Appearance is like the easiest thing to pick up on, right? If you're in a very specific situation, like I don't fucking know, maybe both of you are playing basketball, right? Ask him like a basketball related question. It doesn't have to be anything out of the ordinary, right? It doesn't have to be anything difficult at all. Man, I'm starting like a bitch today. What the fuck's happening? The point that I'm trying to make is you really don't have to overcomplicate things. When you think of cold approaching as like such a difficult thing, something that's completely out of your reach, something that's outside of your comfort zone, your perception of doing that thing is gonna become 10 times like harder. You're gonna find it as much harder of a thing to do. But when you think of it as just speaking to somebody, the idea just becomes more pleasant, right? This is something that I came up with myself. Ever since I started to preach that mindset to my friends, they found cold approaching 10 times easier. So it might sound a little bit autistic at first, but I promise you, when you stop thinking of cold approaching as such a niche down and like specific difficult thing, it's gonna be 10 times easier for you if you just think about it as just speaking up to somebody. Because that's literally what you're doing. Imagine you see a girl at the gym that you like, right? What do you really want to do by cold approaching? You want to speak to her. You want to get her number. So literally just walk up and speak to her. Don't overcomplicate it by thinking of like what is the best strategy to like get a number? What are the top 5 best compliments to give when you're speaking to a girl? Fuck that. Fuck that. When you start to overthink it in such like a very specific way, you're just gonna end up worrying more about all things, because the more ideas you get on how to like actually speak to her, the more worries and like sidelines you're actually gonna end up having, because you're gonna take into account all of these different things that could possibly go wrong, right? So literally the easiest and the simplest way for you to get better at cold approaching is to destroy the idea of cold approaching in girls or guys in the first place. From now on, you just want to speak to them. You want to speak to them with a purpose in mind. You want to speak to them because I don't fucking know. Maybe you want to meet the guy better. Maybe you want to get the girl's number. Maybe you want to find out about a certain person. Stop thinking about it in such a niched down, specific, difficult way. You need to associate it with a much easier task to do, because as I said for the billionth time already, when you associate that with an easier task to do, your overall perception of doing that thing just becomes easier. It's not like it's gonna magically become 10 times easier, right? But when your mindset is different about doing something, your capability of actually doing that thing also changes. When you see something as a much easier thing to do, you're overall just going to improve better, because this is the same thing with overthinking, right? I really don't want to fucking repeat myself over and over, but the overall concept is genuinely simple, my friend. As long as you're able to turn your fucking brain off, and the way you do that, right? The way you do that, you force your feet to walk up towards that person before you even get the idea of what you really want to say. Before you even get the idea, you wanna find like a comfortable way to start a sentence, as I just said, right? You don't want it to be vague, empty, like specific. You want it to be something that's dedicated to a certain person, right? I just gave the example. If you see a jacked guy, tell him that he's jacked, Always, if you don't want to start off with a question because it feels too niche down, always start off with a compliment. If you don't have an idea for what question you want to ask, always start off with a compliment, because when you start a conversation with a pleasant emotion, when the first thing somebody sees you is how do I say this? When the first emotion somebody feels around you is happiness, they're gonna overall associate you with a happy experience. So pretty much the best way to do it, if you don't have an idea for what question to ask, literally just compliment them for something. With most people, it's honestly so easy to pick up on one thing they have that you already know they would love to get complimented for. For most of the time, it's gonna be the outfit, it's gonna be physique, maybe it's a certain facial feature which looks pretty odd and worth talking about. It really doesn't have to be that specific. So yeah, that's literally pretty much it. If you wanna talk to me directly whilst hanging around an amazing community of like-minded people who are all on self-improvement and they all want to improve their lives and live on self-improvement, join my Discord server, brother. I don't want to plug my shit into your fucking face. Listen, brother, I don't even sell a product yet. I'm just trying to help you out. So I really think that if you genuinely want to grow and become the best version of yourself, me and my community have definitely got you covered. We have all the tools you need to become the best version of yourself. I started like looking crazy. This is the 3rd time I said it. Okay, fuck that. If you don't want to do all that, then like, comment, sub, do all these things if you want. I'm not gonna force you to do anything. As I just said, I'm not the type of motherfucker like throw his little fucking algorithm into your face. I don't care about that. Maybe once I'll get like super fun big, maybe I will. But for now, do whatever you think is right, okay? Do whatever you think is right, and I'm pretty sure that if you apply all the stuff we talked about today, cold approach is gonna get 10 times easier for you, both with guys and girls, right? Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say for this video. Yeah, take care, brother. I'll see you in the next one.